I appreciate you joining me today. We're going to be looking at the account of Rahab. Our hymn today, it's a hymn called When All Thy Mercies.
When all thy mercies, oh my God, my rising soul surveys, transported with the view, I'm lost in wonder, love, and praise.
Okay, let's look in Joshua, and let's actually back up. Pardon me, I'm in the wrong spot. We're looking in Joshua chapter 2. Joshua chapter 1 speaks about, of course, Moses is passing. Joshua is told, be courageous. And so he's going to send spies out in Joshua chapter 2. Sent out two men to spy secretly. Joshua had spied out the same land 40 years prior to this. Now he sends these two out to go spy, go view the land, especially Jericho. And so they come to the house of a harlot named Rahab. They lodged there. The king of Jericho hears it and goes and tells Rahab, bring out the men who have come to you, right? He sends soldiers. Bring out the men who have come to you, who've entered your house. They've come to search out all the country. And then the woman took the two men and hid them. Yes, and she says, yeah, the men came to me, but I didn't know where they were from. And so as the gate was being shut, when it was dark, the men went out. And of course, she had actually hid the men. James talks about this account in James chapter 2 as one of the two examples of faith and works and how a man is justified. One example is Abraham and Isaac. Rahab is the other example. Rahab hid the spies. And it talks about this as how a man is justified in God's sight. God renders to every man according to their deeds. If Rahab would have just said, well, I believe the Lord, He is God, but didn't do anything, what would have happened to her? She would have perished with everybody else. There was something she had to do. That's the point of James 2 passage. She was justified by faith and works together. Back to our passage. And so she had taken him up after she sends the Jericho soldiers off on a wild goose chase. She had taken the Israelites up and hid them with stalks of flax, which she had laid in order on the roof. And so after those Jericho soldiers are gone, she comes up to them on the roof and she says, I know that the Lord has given you the land, that the terror of you has fallen on us, and that all the inhabitants of the land are faint-hearted because of you. We've heard what the Lord's done, how the Lord 40 years prior to this had dried up the Red Sea when they came out of Egypt, what had happened to the Amorites on the other side of the Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom you utterly destroyed. And she just paints this picture of fear. Everyone's afraid. Everyone's afraid, and you start thinking about fear and godly fear. We know 1 John says, love casts out fear, because fear involves torment. The point of that passage is that Christians should not live in fear of hell. We should not expect hell. We should not expect to be lost. But at the same time, Hebrews talks about Noah moving with godly fear for the saving of his household. Jesus, Jesus, when he was speaking to the disciples, he says, don't fear those who can kill the body. But then he goes on and he says, I'll tell you who you should fear. And you might think about that idea. It's recognizing the power of God. And it's recognizing the Almighty. That's what Rahab has done. Everybody's afraid. But Rahab's fear is a little different. Rahab has godly fear. And it's going to drive her to do what the soldiers tell her to do, and we know what that is. As the account goes on, right, she talks about their hearts melting. Let's make this point. Their hearts were melting. Right now, Israel is on the east side of the Jordan River. So from Jericho's view, they're thinking probably the only thing that's protecting us right now is the Jordan. What do you think happened to their hearts when the waters of the Jordan were cut off here in a little bit? Which hadn't happened yet, but it's about to happen. What do you think? How do, how do you think they felt then? What do you think happened to their hearts? So their hearts had already melted. You know, you have hundreds of thousands of people. And when hundreds of thousands of people are, you would have seen a dust cloud off in the distance. And they know what's coming. And then the waters are going to be cut off. Before that, though, they had just heard these things that had happened. Our hearts melted. Swear to me by the Lord, since I've shown you kindness, that you will show kindness to my father's house and give me a true token. She's worried about her family along with herself. Spare my father, my mother, my brothers, my sisters, and all that they have, and deliver our lives from death. And so the men tell her what she needs to do. They say, bind this line of scarlet cord in the window through which you let us down, and unless you bring your father, your mother, your brothers, and all your father's household to your own home, anybody goes outside the doors of your house into the street, his blood shall be on his own head. You get him in-house. You know, I was thinking about this almost like a little church. We know what Acts chapter 2 says. The Lord adds to the church daily those who are being saved. Salvation is found not through the church, right? We're saved by Jesus, but the saved are in the church. And so these spies tell Rahab, you get your family in here. Because if they're outside, their blood's on their own head. But if they're inside, we'll save them. And that's how we have to look. That's how we have to act with our family and the church. The Lord adds to the church those who are being saved. You get your family here. Cornelius, what did Cornelius do? Cornelius got all his family and friends in-house to hear the word of the Lord. That's what we have to do. We have to do everything we can, moving with godly fear for the saving of our households, like Noah did, like Rahab did. Might think about it. Appreciate you. Hope you have a good day. Join us tomorrow for another portion of our daily praise.